We will begin special orders with General Orders number 111, Bill House File 778, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I have House File 778 in front of us. And members, it is the Minnesota Sports Facility Authority Reform Bill. It's basically based off of the recommendations coming from the Legislative Auditor that he performed an audit on the Sports Authority back in November, with the findings coming out in, I believe, January. Their first recommendation was to control the authority's use of complimentary tickets and use the code of conduct for employers, Also, they recommend allowing one or both suites to be used for charitable purposes. Their third recommendation is the legislature should exercise more oversight over the authority. And number 4, consider laws to control the use of complimentary tickets at all sports and entertainment facilities built with public money. If I could briefly go through the bill, Madam Chair, members. It first starts off with making sure that the people that use the free admission tickets or gifts, it is public data. This bill did go through state government, judiciary, and finance. It also redefines the membership on the authority board, gives the governor his 3, that is the usual language, but we have Senate confirmation with that. The city of Minneapolis also has 2 appointments with Senate confirmation. And those 2 appointments complies with the 2012 law, Chapter 299, which provides the city 24% of the board representation. It deals with the compensation. It says that the authority chair cannot receive more than half of the executive director's salary, and the executive director cannot exceed more than 115% of the governor's salary, and the executive director must have an annual review or employee review. It also involves the legislative auditor, who's already involved as far as looking at the books once a year. But now we allow him to go in periodically to examine the use of this space. And he also must review the management structure. This is a provision that was provided by Senator Kent, and it can be submitted to the Commission, Legislative Sports Commission, and the legislature by next January of 2018. It expands the use of the website, which right now just includes the bylaws, and we're expanding it to include the budget and the use agreement and the sponsorship agreement. There's also a legislative report, which they do report to us, but besides what they're reporting now, that has to include to the legislature and the Sports Commission their revenues, expenditures, events conducted, the maintenance, capital repair needs, and the list of the stadium amenities and how they are used. Again, it references the 43A.38, the code of conduct that we will adopt and comply with. And then there's several sections on the stadium space use. The first one is with the authority members. It clearly defines that must be used for legitimate business purposes, and the marketing effort must be arranged by the marketing vendor, which is at this time SMG. The authority members can use the space if they're conducting oversight of the operation or they're making available for charitable organizations use of the suites. For staff members, when using the stadium space, they can only be used for legitimate business purposes and approved by the authority with a public vote, and may not be used unless there's an express written assignment of duties by the executive director. And they may not receive free food, beverage, unless necessary to complete their assigned duties. For family and friends, we clearly state in the bill that it must be for legitimate business purposes with an approval vote by the authority, and that would be for public record. And it should be for legitimate business purposes, which spells out in the bill a prospective user of the stadium. For the stadium space for the marketing vendor, which is they receive complimentary access to the market suite, but they must report within 30 days to the authority the cost of the use, the identity of each attendee and their purpose, the date, time, describe their legitimate purpose, and the value of the benefits. And this data is public. We define in the bill too on the open market tickets, which does not prohibit the authority member, the staff, the friends, family from attending events, purchasing tickets on the open market through same channels for the same prices that are available to the public. There is a provision for recovery. We must make every effort to recover the fair market value, report recovery, and return the money to the general reserve account, not the Vikings. That is an amendment that I'll be offering here shortly, Madam President. They must report to MMB and the legislature by May 31st of 2017. Then there is an amendment, Madam Chair, that I'd like to offer and move. It is the A15 Amendment.
Senator Rosen offers the A15 Amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Rosen moves to amend House File number 778, the unofficial engrossment as follows, page 1 after line 8. This is the A15 Amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. So the amendment does several things. Back when the legislation was passed in 2012, it was called the Metropolitan Sports Facilities Commission, and this amendment would clean up that language to refer to it as the Minnesota Sports Facility Authority, which is the proper language. It should have been changed in 2013. It was never done, so it's a technical part for that. It's a new article for the bill, Article 1. It also adjusts the timeline for appointments and the Senate confirmation. And as I said, on the recovery side, it makes sure that the primary tenant does not receive any of the funds of the recovery, that it goes into the general reserve account. It also provides for the temporary transfer of one suite to a nonprofit organization that's affiliated with and designated by the primary tenant. This is temporary until a plan that is developed by the Legislative Commission on sports facilities is implemented, and that would the commission would involve the legislative auditor, the MMB, the primary tenant, and we would come back to the legislature with our idea, what we would like to see with that second suite. And that's about it, Madam Chair. Madam President, that is the amendment.
Further discussion of the A15 Amendment. Seeing none, Senator Rosen renews her motion on the A15 Amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Senator Rosen to House File 778.
Thank you, Madam President. I do know there are some amendments that I would like to entertain at this point.
Further discussion. Senator Marty.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the A14 Amendment at the desk.
Senator Marty offers the A14 Amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Marty moves to amend House File number 778, the unofficial engrossment as follows, page 8, delete lines 5 and 6. This is the A14 Amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Marty.
Thank you, Madam President. This deals with Section 20, the transfer of the suite, in the report that the Sports Facilities Commission should report to the legislature on. I talked with Senator Rosen about this. It would just clarify that they should report on the whole range of options, including the potential for amending use agreement and discussing potential revenue we could get from sale or lease of one or both suites, or other ways of benefiting the public, such as the one that's already included in the bill, making them available for charitable organizations. I think this expands the type of things they would be reporting to us on. I discussed this with Senator Rosen and ask for your support.
Discussion to the A14, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Marty, for the amendment. I think this is an important tool that will be used by the Legislative Sports Commission this coming year, and I would ask for your support on the A14 Amendment.
Senator Marty renews his motion on the A14 Amendment. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on House File 778. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I was hoping Senator Rosen would yield for a question.
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Senator Rosen, Madam President, I was just curious about on page 2, paragraph C, starting at line 2.16, that the city appointments are now subject to Senate confirmation, as well as the down on line 21 and 22, the threshold for their removal has been raised to only allow them to be removed for cause. Senator Rosen, I think there's a principle in which when these sorts of authorities are established, those who are contributing significant resources to the purpose for which the commissions or the governing or oversight bodies are appointed just are able to then, of course, have a say in how those dollars are administered, how that operation is overseen in proportion to the level and amount of their contribution. And we, of course, know that the city is donating and contributing a significant portion of the taxes that support the construction and now the operation of the facility. So why then would we interject the authority of the Senate to confirm who those individuals are, and not just simply leave it to the city of Minneapolis to make that determination, and then also make the determination about whether or not those folks should remain in place rather than subjecting them to external statutory thresholds of cause?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Dibble, for the question. And it's a very good question. As you remember, not only is the city a part of this negotiation along with the primary tenant, but also is the state. And the authority is, the members on the authority board are called commissioners. And we tend to have a Senate confirmation for all, they go through the Senate confirmation on all these commissioners. And I felt it was appropriate to make sure that we all agree with the Senate confirmation that, for a commissioner going forward. And we are just asking that these commissioners comply with the employee code of ethics. And I think that's standard, should be across the board. I will say I have been in conversations with the city of Minneapolis. They have no problem with this language. I have sat down with the governor for 45 minutes and he went through this bill, and this seems to be a very good compromise going forward to make sure that there is accountability with the board makeup and the authority of that board makeup also.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. I appreciate the response to my question. And just to be clear, I'm not as concerned about removal for cause. I have some concern with that. I'm certainly not concerned about making sure that these appointees are subject to the Employee Code of Ethics in Section 43A.38. I do have some concern about subjecting these appointees to Senate confirmation. I think that is a preemption of local authority and local prerogative. City of Minneapolis is bringing forward significant resources on behalf of the people of the city of Minneapolis. I didn't agree with it, but it happened, and went to a fairly significant, expended a great deal of political and policy effort to accomplish that. And so I think it is simply the purview of the mayor and the city council to make those appointments and not subject them to Senate confirmation, because I don't think it's the states or the Senate's business who gets appointed. It's the city's business, because it's the city resources and it's the city political leadership that brought those resources about to make this facility possible in its ongoing operation. So I hope, Senator Rosen, you might be willing to continue to have a discussion at least on that part of it, line 2.16, the Senate confirmation element.
Senator Rosen.
Well, thank you, Madam President and Senator Dibble. I understand that. It was also part of the Legislative Auditor's recommendations to have that oversight. Senate confirmation was recommended, and I really did follow the OLA report as well as I could. And as I said, the city of Minneapolis seems to have no problem with the Senate confirmation, because we are treating it as a board, as a commission, the commissioners of that authority board, and we tend to do that in the Senate.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to offer the A3 amendment.
Senator Kiffmeyer offers the A3 amendment. The secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Kiffmeyer moves to amend House File 778, the unofficial engrossment as follows. Page 1 after line 20, insert. This is the A3 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. So my amendment, Madam President, sorry, I just need to get some paperwork here to staff. Thank you very much. So, Madam President, and members, one of the recommendations of the Office of Legislative Auditor was to apply this to all members and employees of public governing bodies responsible for management of publicly owned facilities. And so, Madam President, that is the A3 amendment, taken action on the Legislative Auditor's recommendation, and it does affect the gift ban, similar to what the Viking Stadiums does as well.
To the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, Senator Kiffmeyer is right. One of the recommendations was to have the legislature should consider an enactment of laws to control the use of complimentary tickets at all sports and entertainment facilities built with public money. So following 43A.38, the Code of Ethics for Employees in the Executive Branch, I do support this amendment.
Senator Kiffmeyer renews her motion on the A3 amendment. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on House File 778. Secretary will give House File 778 its third reading.
House File Number 778, a bill for an act relating to the Minnesota Sports Facility Authority.
Third reading. Final comments, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam President. I just would like to thank, actually, the Legislative Auditor, Jim Nobles, for working with us and making some very good recommendations, for all those who contributed to this bill, to the governor for sitting down and really taking an active part in this bill. I think it's a great compromise. We are, with this adjustment, with this bill, House File 778, we're making this tremendous asset that we have more accountable, more transparent, and we are being responsible partners along with the city of Minneapolis and the primary tenant, the Vikings. We have a lot to look forward to, the Super Bowl in 2018, the Final Four in 2019, and all the other events that are coming to this state asset of ours. So members, I do appreciate your support on this bill, and thank you very much.
Secretary will take the roll on House File 778.
Nice amendment. It really does cover a lot of things that should be covered. So thank you. I didn't feel a need to speak to it. It's good.
All those senators having voted who desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 64 ayes and no nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.